Thank you, Jasmine, for reading it for us. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Church of God this morning. Morning. Is it very cold? It is cold, and look at that. I cannot see anything out there. It's very gloomy. It looks like 8 o'clock in the evening. Okay. I'm sure every one of you may have read the story of Ruth. It's one of the very important narratives in the Bible which could be read from different angles. Some people, or one of the most prominent traditional ways of reading Ruth is reading it from the perspective of kinsman redeemer. Do you know what that means? Kinsman redeemer is somebody who stands as a type of Christ. Boaz is the redeemer, and then Ruth is being redeemed. That story then is being applied to believers. Jesus coming to redeem us. And there is a very important narrativity of redemption in the story of Ruth. And also, the story of Ruth could be read from another angle, a family's tragedy. Okay? Or there could be other ways of reading the story. But today we are going to read the book of Ruth from Ruth's point of view. Okay? Ruth's point of view and the perspective that she takes. So I would call it loyalty at the risk of life. In other words, the extreme point of Ruth's loyalty was even she was ready to risk her own life. I think there are some lessons that we can learn from this story. Let's get to it. In fact, I asked Jasmine or the readers to read Ruth chapter 1 verses 6 to 17 to get the story. 16 I asked them to read, and actually it should go up to 17 to have the complete picture of it. And I have that in my PowerPoint, so I will do that. I will read it out for you later on. But you may have read the story. So this is the summary of the story. There is a lady by the name Naomi living in Bethlehem. Okay, I'll come to that word later. And some point in time in Bethlehem, there was a famine. And this lady takes her husband, 2 boys, and goes to a far country which is known as Moab. Okay? And she's leaving from Jerusalem with this family, and the lead person is a lady. At times we think only men are the leaders in the family, and I don't think so all the time that's the case. I think women also led a lot of good stuff in the Bible. Okay? Nothing wrong in having women as leaders in churches, in ministries, in families as well. So Naomi is taking the family, and then they lived there 10 years. Okay? Sometime during these 10 years, Naomi's husband, Elimelech, dies. And then she finds 2 girls from Moab for her children. And then after a while, the boys also died. Now this lady is alone and 2 daughter-in-laws. And she is standing in Moab without any relatives and friends. And then there comes a news that God visited his people in Bethlehem. So there's food. There is divine aid. And then she comes back. When she packed up, wanted to come back, she says to the daughters, go to your people. I don't have any more children to give you, and you don't have any hope with me. Go. And then one of them kisses the mother-in-law and leaves, and the other one sticks to the mother-in-law and comes to the messianic line, to this glory of God's economy of grace. That's what we read in Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 to 10, where Ruth becomes the mother of Jesus. In other words, she comes into the genealogy of Jesus. Now, let's look at Ruth closely. As we look at Ruth closely, we will also look at the other shades of story from Orpah and also from Naomi. First of all, let's start thinking about Naomi's loyalty. Okay, in the story, these are some of the key features that we find. Naomi leaves Bethlehem. Do you know what's the meaning of the word Bethlehem? The house of bread. Now, understand the narrative there. In the house of bread, in the city of God, a city which is cared by God, there was a time of famine. Hello? It's in the city of God. It's in the house of bread. If you stand at my doorpost in my house, we named our house Bethlehem. I don't know how many of the people who read it know it, what we meant. We always wanted to keep this house as not only physical food, but also the spiritual food where the word of God is being served. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it does not happen. So also in Judea, in Bethlehem, in the house of bread, in the house that God sustains, there was a famine. Which is not a good thing, isn't it? Okay? And this lady felt that it was a bad time in the house of God. It was a bad time under God's care. It's a bad time. There's no sustenance, no bread, because there is famine. And she forgets the fact that in the midst of famines, God sustained God's people. Did he in the history? Yes. How about Elijah? There was famine, long famine, but God sustained people. God sustained Elijah by sending a raven, right? And also you read in Egypt there was a famine, but God sustained Egypt because of Joseph. And there was, in the time of Isaac, there was a famine. And then God says, stay in the country and sow the seed, I'll bless you. God sustained it and made the harvest plentiful. This lady, Naomi, you can see how loyal she was to God. She decided to leave the house of bread. I would say she decided to leave a house of miracle. A house where the presence of God can make anything possible. He can turn the impossibilities into possibilities. He can perform a miracle. He can even change a famine into plentifulness within no time. So she leaves from the house of bread. That's what Ruth chapter 1 verse 1 says. And do you know what's the name of the word Naomi? It's there on the screen so you know it. The name Naomi simply means pleasantness or beauty or beautiful. In the house of God, in the house where God provides, this lady was pleasant. Hello? Even when the famine is going on in the house of God, this lady was pleasant. And she was beautiful. And she was satisfied, but she had other pressures and concerns. Just human pressures, just human concerns, just human thinking about the future, human thinking about the future of their children, future of her family, and worried and concerned. Oh, famine in the house of bread. Famine in the house of God. What will happen to my children, to me, to my family tomorrow if I remain here? She surrendered her loyalty to God. She surrendered her loyalty to the faithfulness of God and to the covenant of God. She departed when she was pleasant, when she was beautiful. Because of the external pressure of famine, she left the house of God. She left Bethlehem. She left the house of bread. And then we read in Ruth chapter 1 verses 1 to 5, she says, I lost my husband. I lost my 2 young, strong boys. I lost my 10 years of life. I lost everything. Now, can you see the contrast here? Somebody's loyalty to God's covenant, to God's love, and God's care is turned from there to human efforts. I'm not here to tell you you should not have your efforts. I'm not here to tell you that we should not work. All of us work and plan life. But end of the day, it is God, His providence, His care, His love, His plan that will become successful. Naomi moved on, and she lost everything for which she left. Yes or no? Why she left the house of bread? For herself, for her children, for her husband, for the future. But she risked everything that she wanted to preserve. Are you someone? I'm not only speaking to ladies here. I'm speaking to everybody, including me. Are you someone who is drifting your loyalty from God, your heart, surrender, commitment, hope, and trust from God, looking to human beings and the circumstances and the challenges like a famine, potential no food, potential starving to death, potential risk, potential no job, potential no money? Are you worried about those pressures around you? And then you look for other avenues like Naomi did. You are rightly doing it as a human being. But in the story of Naomi, she lost everything she wanted to protect. She lost everything that she cared for. She lost everything that she wanted to preserve for the future. And then she became Mara. You know what's the meaning of Mara? Ruth chapter 1 verse 20, she says, don't call me Naomi anymore. Naomi means pleasantness, and it means beautiful, and it becomes blossoming. Don't call me anymore pleasant. Don't call me anymore happy. Don't call me anymore somebody who is blossoming, because I lost everything. I became bitter. I may have said this story several times. In the history, there was a great preacher. There was a great preacher by the name D.L. Moody. Have you ever heard D.L. Moody? Have you ever heard about Spurgeon? The prince of all preachers. Okay? Anyway, Spurgeon was a pastor. I said D.L. Moody, but I wanted to emphasize upon Spurgeon's story. Spurgeon was a great preacher and he was a pastor. One day in a very bad winter, it was very freezing cold, and he was sitting in his winter house nearby his chimney. You know, those old houses have chimney, and then you lit fire, and then you sit there and warm yourself up. And this man of God was there, and there comes a brother from the church. And he came to the pastor. Pastor greeted him, and he said to the pastor, "Pastor, I do not want to come to your church anymore. I don't like church anymore. I'm going to walk away." Spurgeon, as the pastor, did not present any case. He looked up to him, and then he took a piece of coal which was flaming inside the chimney and put it outside and sat there. The brother also sat there. After some time, the coal that was pulled out of the fire died. It lost its flame. And then when it was cool, Spurgeon takes that one back and puts into the fire. It started flaming. And the believer said, "Okay, good night, Pastor. I got it. See you in the church." Did you get it? Did you get it? Spurgeon, without any words, he said, the coal stays warm and aflame when it sits inside the fire of other coals, pieces. You separate that from that fellowship of fire. You go cold and you die. Fellowship, communion of the saints, relationship, staying in spirituality and maturity is important. That's what happened to Naomi. Naomi should have stayed with her people. She should have stayed in Judea where the city of God is. She should have stayed there in the house of God where the promise of God stays, saying, it's a house of bread God provides. Even though famine, he will provide, and he is trustworthy. And now she was pleasant, she was beautiful, she had everything. Now she lost everything, and she is standing alone without any hope and life. She lost everything that she wanted to preserve, and she was pleasant. Now she is Mara, bitter. How often do we go to this pathway? Even those of us who are sitting inside the church can go for some time. Bitter. We see ourselves as pleasant. We see ourselves as calm and quiet. We ourselves as trusting in God and His providence, His care, His faithfulness for us. The next moment, we go bitter because we look to people. We look to people who have misbehaved, talked wrong about us, or do something wrong to us. And then we go bitter. Paul says, remove all the bitterness from your heart. This lady's life is in mess. Absolute mess. But what is good for her is she knows where to turn. Hello? Going away from the house of God is okay. Drifting away from the plan of God is okay. But what is important is when you know that you turned yourself into bitter, you must know where to turn. In verse 6, Naomi turned to God. Again, she comes back to God, to the city of God, which she abandoned. And now, let me get to the next paradigm. Look at this. Ruth 1, 20 to 21. This is what Ruth said. Naomi said, don't call me Naomi, because Naomi means happiness, pleasantness. And she told them, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. Do you feel any kitch inside somewhere? Irritation, itching, resentment? That's the time. Get back. Get back to the Lord. Don't make yourself Mara. I went away. This is what fascinating. I loved it. I went away full. Hey, where did she go from? From the house of bread when there was famine. Even when it was famine, she was full. Hello? You may not have maybe the 5-star. Naomi did not have the 5-star maybe, but she was full. She may not have had everything she wanted according to the greed. But still she was full. Our God is able to satisfy us even when there is famine. Even when there seems to be nothing. Even when there seems to be the foundation is shaking. Even when there seems to be nobody is walking with us, still God is able. And He is able to make you full, to complete you, and to give you what is necessary, at least the basic. He never withholds the basic from you. When I read this, it was how many times? Maybe 50 times or more, I may have read this story. But when I found this expression, this time, it caught my attention. I don't know, somehow. It caught my attention. It says, she went from famine. She went for safety and security, but she went full. But she came back empty. Hello? She came back empty. Let us do not wait for that time. At least when you are half, run back. At least when you have some energy left, some resource left, some life left, run back to God. And she says, the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. And then Orpah's loyalty. Do you know what's the meaning of Orpah? It's very unclear. The word simply means neck or fawn. And by extension, it could be said popularity, convenience, and so on. Now, if you read the narrative, I'll read it after some time, you will find Naomi says, hey, I cannot have any more children, so both of you go to your people, to your gods, and look after yourself, and marry somebody and live well. Because my children are dead. I'm old. I cannot have a husband and have children and grow them up to marry you. So go. Okay? And both of the daughters-in-law, started following Naomi. First they kissed and started following, we will come with you. They came to a particular place and Naomi says, no, go. And then she explained all the human practicalities, human difficulties. right? She explained, look, I'm old, no hope. Look, I cannot have husband, there's no hope. I cannot have children, so you have no life. And I have no idea where I'm going to go because I'm going to Jerusalem, I'm going to Bethlehem. Whether I will have a life or not, I don't know. She explained all the practical difficulties. And Orpah said, okay, then I'll kiss you one more time and goodbye. We are living in a society of this kind today. It's not working. It's not working. Goodbye. I have a life to live. Orpah's loyalty was circumstantial driven. Her ethical reasoning was circumstantial and situationist. My life is more important. Ahead of me, a lot of difficulties, and the circumstances are not favorable. So goodbye. Where is God in all this? Hello, friends, are you with me? Where is God in all this? This lady, Orpah, had no idea what is waiting. She departed Ruth in verse 14 and looked at human difficulties and gone. See, at this, when Naomi explained, they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. But, catch that word, but Ruth clung to her. So, Naomi surrenders her loyalty to God for her family, for her future. That becomes a chaos. Orpah surrenders the loyalty to Naomi, which is ultimately the loyalty to the covenanted God. Do you know why? There's a historical reasoning here. That is, when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, you remember Lot ran, or the angel pulled him out of the town, and he was pulled in, the angel asked him to run to the mountains. And he ran to some place, and he had only his 2 daughters and himself. And the daughters made her father drink and had relationships and children born. Do you know who are they? Moabites and Ammonites. These people were condemned from the presence of God for generations. Orpah and Ruth are the last condemned generation. God is extending grace in restoration, but Orpah denied it, and she did not realize it. It's returning home time into the grace of God, but one person had no understanding of what is going on. So Naomi surrendered her loyalty to God, poor family, and Orpah surrendered her loyalty to her generations and the promise of God that I will bring you back, and lost the portion that she could have gained with God because she looked at her selfish motives and life ahead. But Ruth is not like that. Ruth's loyalty. Do you know what's the meaning of the word Ruth? Fascinating. Ruth means friend, friendship, or compassionate friend. Ruth means friend, friendship, compassionate friend, or compassionate friendship. It's interesting, isn't it? So she was not willing to surrender. Okay, in verse 14, this is what Ruth says. But Ruth clung to Naomi. And then in verse 15, Naomi says, look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. You see, there's a connection. Family, people, gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. In other words, she's saying, no turning back. I'm determined. Hello, are you with me, friends? I'm determined. I'm not going to go back. Don't make me go back. Don't try at all. It will not happen. And you are still concerned about my life while I'm concerned about you and your God, your people, your country, and your things. That's loyalty. That's loyalty. I know you are concerned about my life. You are concerned about my dead husband. You are concerned about children and my future. But I'm not concerned about that because God is able to do that. She says, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back. No turning back. I have a determination. Okay, then she says, where you go, I will go. In other words, your place is my place. If you sleep in the street, I will sleep in the street. If you sleep in the house of bread, I will sleep in the house of bread. If you sleep in the house of famine, I will sleep in the house of famine. If you sleep empty stomach, I will also starve. Determination, decision, loyalty. I do not want to have a life without you. Your life is my life, and my life is your life, and we are inseparable. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. And look at that. Your God, my God. Ruth is coming to know Ruth. Ruth is coming to have no life. She is taking a risk of her own life by joining a widow who has no hope. But only she knows where she is going back. She is going to the living God who she abandoned. She is going back to the house of bread which she departed from, where she finds trust. So this lady is saying, oh, your people is my people. Your God is my God. And where you die, that's the 17th verse we missed from reading. Sorry. Where you die, I will die. And there I will be buried. In other words, where you will be buried, I will be also buried. In other words, she's saying, I belong to your family, to the family of God, to the people of God. I do not belong to Moab anymore. Do you know what is happening here? First, an address change. Number 2, identity change. Number 3, direction change. Number 3, destiny change. The address from Moab is removed. Ruth now belongs to elsewhere. She was a Moabite. Now she is going to become a Jewish or a child of God. She belongs to the family of God. And then she says, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. Even at the expense of my life, we will cling to you. I will cling to you. I'll be with you. That's what this lady is saying. Now, friends, do you get anything here? Do you know what happened to Ruth later on? You need to read Matthew chapter 1, where 4 ladies are mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus. Ruth is one of them. She became the mother of Jesus. Mary and Joseph belong ultimately to that lineage. Her destiny changed. Her identity changed. If you read the rest of Ruth, you will find how she was redeemed and how God provided food for her. And she had enough. And she had left over. And she brought back to her mother-in-law. And she ate. They had enough. They had more than enough. They had plenty. It's my encouragement for you today. I'm going to stop. No matter how hard the life situations are, how hard we go through, always we cannot be in glory. It's a share of life. Pain, suffering, sickness, death, worries, concerns, all these are part of life. It will hit us sometimes, but still remain in the house of bread. Remain in the covenant of God. Remain clinging to God, and He is able. And He is able to make things different. He is able to change your address. He is able to change your destiny. He is able to change your identity. He is able to make you happy again. Naomi was made pleasant again. God changed her address as well from bitterness to pleasant. Where are we in our lives? Where do you stand in your loyalty to God, Christ, and so on? I remember the first verse read in this verse was, never give up the good work that you are doing. No need of murmuring. Do your portion. Don't worry about the rest. Do what is given to you. Be faithful and loyal in the midst of that chaos even. It's okay. Chaos is a foggy thing. When the sun shines on it, it will just be removed. Ruth found the right way. She clung to it, and that made her life a glorious life with the covenant of God. Moabites were restored back into the economy of grace through Ruth. She became big in terms of Jesus came through her. And do you need anything more than that? May God bless you to look into your own life and commitments and where we are with Christ in following Him. Thank you.